Thank you very much, Huiyao. I'm also very pleased. Actually, I'm very excited to join some of my old friends for this CCG's conference. I didn't see Craig for more than 30 years, right? So as my response to the comments by previous speakers, let me share with you some of my views on the importance of US-China cooperation to meet global challenges. I'm very much concerned that this Russia-Ukraine conflict could be the spark that lights a bonfire of accumulated global economic problems, from disrupted supply chains and spiraling inflation to unsustainable debts and disrupted and macroeconomic imbalances. If the conflict continues or worse, escalates, its destructive impact will reach far beyond Ukraine and Europe, leading to energy and food shortages, stalled growth, and the real, possibly a major global economic crisis on a scale not seen since the great financial crisis of 2008. The 2008 crisis was devastating, but its one silver lining was all major economies, in particular the US and China, demonstrated the political will to cooperate at that critical juncture, forging the G20, undertaking unprecedented collaboration within the IMF, World Bank, and the WTO, and taking the collective steps needed to prevent the crisis from spiraling out of control to lay the groundwork for global recovery. But what worries me most is that due to the current geopolitical tensions, three Bretton Woods institutions responsible for global economic governance are in various stages of disrepair or dysfunction. And the G20, the last line of defense against financial crisis, is seemingly paralyzed. It's unclear whether the G20 leaders and ministers can even meet in the same room, let alone achieve the concerted policy coordination needed to head off economic disaster. Faced with a new financial crisis or the next pandemic, there's every sign that countries will resort to me first, beggar than neighbor policies, thus making a bad situation far worse. Being the world's largest economies and trading nations, both the US and China will lose out if they continue to distrust each other and choose to let the situation drift. The whole world will be much better off if they do the opposite. What can be done? Let me suggest 3 steps that could help repair, even restore, global economic cooperation. First, countries, especially the US, Europe, and China, need to acknowledge their common economic interests. Our geopolitical differences make the headlines, but I would argue that it's our shared geo-economic interests that are more important and salient. Whether it's transitioning to low-carbon energy, spurring technological innovation, managing digitalization, addressing domestic inequalities, or strengthening rule-based economic relations. We have more in common than we realize, including a common interest in cooperating. And we need to focus more on that essential fact. Second, the US and China need to identify the areas of economic cooperation where they generally see eye to eye and can achieve meaningful progress and mutually beneficial results. One good example is the progress made in the G20 on a global minimum corporate tax. The environment, from deforestation to plastic pollution to even carbon pricing, is even more important area where China and the US face similar challenges, have similar objectives, and can find cooperative solutions if they are prepared to be more open-minded, creative, and collaborative about it. The WTO's surprising success, as mentioned by Wendy, at this recent 12th Ministerial Conference demonstrates how the multilateral trading system can deliver, even under the most challenging circumstances, when countries, in particular, the largest ones, focus on producing outcomes that benefit everyone. The significant outcomes from MC12 of the WTO are unthinkable without the support by the US and China. Here is what the WTO Director General Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala tweeted after the conference. China-USA cooperation was instrumental in getting to positive outcomes. Third, we need to focus on restoring trust. 4 decades of globalization has made the world dramatically better off, but it's also made us more interdependent. That's the price of our prosperity. Of many ties binding the global economy together, the most important is trust. Our willingness to lower barriers depend on one another, work with rather than against each other. If cooperation seems to be breaking down, it's because suspicion has replaced the trust between the US and China, between Europe and China, even between EU and the US. Rebuilding trust begins with rediscovering the benefits of working together. The last thing the world economy needs right now is more mistrust, more fragmentation, more delusions that we can solve our shared global challenges on our own.